Last night, I ruined my entire engagement dinner by exposing a secret that was never supposed to come out. And the worst part is, I didn't even know I was doing it. I thought I was walking into a celebration of love, but instead, I stepped straight into an ambush of lies so deep and twisted that I still feel like I'm suffocating. And the only reason I even uncovered the truth is because a complete stranger told me to look under my fiance's car seat earlier that day. I know that sounds insane, but let me explain. Because every piece of this disaster started long before I ever realized it. I've been with my ex-fiance Daniel for 3 years, and until everything exploded, he was the kind of man who made everyone around him believe he was husband material. Funny, caring, full of surprises, almost too perfect. And apparently, that was because he had learned how to perform the perfect man for multiple women at once. That morning, the same morning as our engagement dinner, I was getting ready when I noticed I had a missed call from an unknown number and a voicemail. The message was from a woman whose voice was shaking when she said, "If you're marrying Daniel, you deserve to know the truth. Check under his driver's seat." That was literally all she said. I thought it was a prank, some jealous ex trying to ruin my night, so I didn't think much of it until I was in his car later buying flowers for the event, and something in my gut told me to look anyway. I reached under the seat and pulled out a velvet ring box. Another engagement ring, not mine, a completely different style, a name engraved inside. To Elena, forever D. My heart almost stopped. I felt this cold wave wash over me, but I convinced myself there had to be an explanation. Daniel always had some perfectly crafted explanation for everything. He told white lies smoothly, almost beautifully, the kind that made you feel stupid for questioning him. But I spent the whole day with that ring burning a hole in my purse, trying to swallow the rising panic, trying to tell myself that confronting him before the dinner would ruin the night we'd planned for so long. So I stayed quiet, and that was the biggest mistake of my life. I tried to ignore the dread curling in my stomach as we drove to the restaurant, especially when he kept scratching his neck the way he does when he's nervous. But the beginning of the dinner went fine, almost suspiciously perfect. His mother hugged me a little too tightly. His father shook my hand longer than usual. Mia, his cousin, kept glancing at me and then quickly looking away. It was like they were all holding their breath. At the time, I thought they were just emotional about the engagement, but now I know they were terrified the truth would come out before Daniel could stop it. I spent the first hour pretending everything was normal, pretending I didn't feel nauseous every time Daniel said the word future. And then, in the middle of my dad's speech about how proud he was, something held my attention. The sharp sound of heels hitting the restaurant floor. Everyone turned at once. A woman in a shimmering emerald dress stormed toward our table with the kind of rage that makes strangers step aside. Daniel's face turned gray, not pale, gray. I'd never seen a grown man shrink the way he did in that moment. The woman slammed her hand on our table and said, "You disappeared for 3 months, and this is where you've been, playing happy fiancé?" Every single person at the table froze. Conversations died mid-sentence. The bartender stopped pouring a drink. Even the background music suddenly felt too loud. I felt my stomach drop because I recognized the name in the ring box, Elena. And she looked directly at me and said, "I'm so sorry, but he lied to both of us. Daniel and I were engaged until he ghosted me before our wedding day. I thought he might be dead. Turns out, he was just busy planning another engagement." My entire world tilted sideways. I opened my purse, grabbed the ring box, and slammed it on the table. "You mean this one?" Elena's eyes widened. Daniel's entire family looked like they wanted to evaporate. His mother whispered, "Dear God," and his father muttered something under his breath like, "I told him this would come back." That was the moment everything in my life shattered at once. Daniel tried to grab my hand, stuttering uselessly, "Please, babe, I can explain. It's not what it looks like," which was ridiculous because it looked exactly like what it was. A man living a double life with 2 engagements, one he'd abandoned and one he was using to hide the mess he created. Elena, shaking visibly, pulled out her phone and showed everyone a picture of her and Daniel at a courthouse filing for their marriage license with a date that made my stomach turn, only 6 months before he proposed to me. Then she showed text messages where Daniel promised her he was working on mental health issues, needed time, would come back stronger. All lies he apparently used to slowly disappear from her life while slipping deeper into mine. And the worst part, his family sat there in silence, not shocked, not confused, just ashamed, because they knew. They all knew. Mia started crying and apologized, saying she slipped at the barbecue when she congratulated me again. And Daniel's mother says she had hoped the past would stay in the past, like Elena was just a mistake they wanted erased. My parents were furious. My brother stood up like he was ready to jump across the table and beat the truth out of Daniel, and my dad told Daniel he expected a full explanation immediately, but all Daniel could do was choke on excuses. I couldn't breathe. My chest was tight, my hands were numb. I felt like the entire room was spinning. All the little strange moments from our relationship flashed in my mind. Times he disappeared for hours claiming his phone was dead. Times he refused to talk about his past relationships. Times his mother seemed overly protective of him. Times Mia looked like she wanted to say something but didn't. The truth was always there. I just didn't want to see it. Daniel grabbed my wrist and whispered, "I'm begging you, don't leave. Let me fix this." But the thought of him touching me made my skin crawl. I pulled my hand back, took off my engagement ring, and dropped it in his wine glass with a soft clink that felt louder than a thunderstorm. I said, "You didn't just lie to me. You built a whole future on top of someone else's ruins and expected me to walk into it blind." Then I walked out. I didn't care who was watching. I didn't care that people were whispering. I didn't care that the waiter stepped aside like he knew I was escaping a crime scene. I just needed to breathe. I made it to the parking lot before I collapsed in tears, and my mother held me like I was a child again. My family surrounded me, protective and furious. Behind us, I could hear Daniel arguing with Elena, his parents trying to calm the chaos, Mia sobbing, and someone shouting about calling security. Since last night, Daniel has called over 70 times from multiple numbers. His mother sent this long message begging me not to punish Daniel for a mistake made in confusion, which made me want to scream, because using another woman as a placeholder engagement is not confusion. Elena emailed again to apologize, saying she didn't know I existed until recently and that Daniel told her I was an old friend's sister he was helping through a tough time, which made me sick. My friends want me to go viral with the story. My family wants me to pursue legal action. But right now, I'm sitting on my couch surrounded by the ghosts of every memory I thought was real, wondering how someone can lie so beautifully for so long. I keep thinking about whether I should have stayed and listened to his explanation, but the more I replay it, the more I realize any explanation he had would have just been another performance, another carefully crafted lie meant to keep me in his orbit. So now I'm left with this question that keeps eating at me. Was I wrong to walk out instantly and cut every single one of them off? Or was leaving the only thing that saved me from spending my life married to a man who was never who he pretended to be?